Hey guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two musicians, and when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And today on Gaming Gig, we're talking about Season 5 of Sea of Thieves.
Okay, Daniel, I think that Season 5 is the perfect time for new players to start playing Sea of Thieves.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I'm saying come on in, the water's fun.
They've introduced so many quality of life updates in this new season that I think that players maybe who have been waiting to play the game because they maybe at first heard that it wasn't very fully featured, well now the game is more featured than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we came in towards the end of Season 3, and we never really found that the game was lacking in features, but I know it had that reputation early on. But with some of the new things they've added in Season 5, it's definitely a great time to jump in.
Before we kind of get into all the new things they've added for Season 5, I just kind of want to talk about our Sea of Thieves experience, because we've been playing now for a few months, and I'll tell you, it's been one of those games that ever since we started playing, pretty much for the most part, we have played every single night for a few hours a night.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really missed a night unless we were gigging.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. Or
Yeah.
you were out of town.
Yeah, this is a game that immediately hooked me, and I have to say, I'm super addicted to it.
Oh, I am as well. I mean, I've always wanted to really be into one of those big multiplayer games. We've tried Fortnite. I'm playing Halo Infinite now. We've tried Apex Legends. But Sea of Thieves is a little different than those games, and it's a lot better for me, and I think for you as well.
It's because it's one of those games where something new is always happening. It's not the same experience every night. In fact, pretty much every time you play, you have a completely different thing happening.
Yeah, I mean, you can set out on what you think is a great planned voyage, and somewhere along the line there, you encounter something else. You see a ship off in the distance, you see some birds circling, you want to go check it out, and it generally leads to some hilarious interactions.
And the interactions are never the same twice, because the world is always throwing new things at you, and plus the fact that you're interacting with other players, and you never know what they're going to do, so it's just a really cool experience.
Absolutely.
So let's actually kind of go ahead and talk about some of the new updates they have added to Season 5.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things that jumped out to me is that you can now do something that I've always wanted to do, which is bury treasure.
Yeah, this is a huge thing. We've always been able to dig up treasure, but we haven't been able to bury our own treasure until now. And I think it's because they were waiting to kind of figure out a way to implement this, because I think it's somewhat complex, because if you just bury some treasure, how is anyone going to know where it's at, or even how are you going to remember where the treasure's at?
Right. And now one of the things that they've added is that it auto-generates a map for whatever island you buried that treasure on. And you can either keep that map and come back to it later, or you can post it to a quest board at one of the outposts and somebody else can jump on the server and find your treasure.
Right, this is a really cool way to do this, because I think they could have done it in a way that maybe didn't make as much sense. But having this quest board and having these auto-generated maps is a really elegant way to bury your own treasure.
And another thing that we haven't really discussed, I don't think, is that when it auto-generates a map, it goes on your map table in your ship, and you could actually go on someone else's ship and steal their maps.
Yeah, that's really cool. So if you can go and steal someone else's maps, is this something that is going to affect them? Are they not going to be able to go dig up their own treasure, I guess, if you steal it from it, essentially?
Well, I don't think they would be able to find it unless they knew exactly where it was, and they also won't be able to post it to the quest board, which means they won't be able to get that renown if someone else digs it up.
Right, so this is kind of cool. This is just kind of one extra very piratey thing you can do, which is steal someone's map. That seems very piratey to me.
Super piratey.
Yeah. We've played around with it a little bit. We've dug up other people's treasure. We've buried our own treasure and posted it to the board. And so far, it's been a pretty cool thing.
And I'm just going to say, for anybody out there who thinks along the same lines as we do, if you bury a keg, it does not put an X on a map for you. However, if someone digs that keg up, it does automatically ignite, and that is hilarious.
Now, we have no idea if things that don't create an auto-generated map can even be dug up by other people. We're not sure, because there's really no way to tell unless we got another person on the server to test it out. So I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that either.
There are certain items that don't generate maps.
All right, moving on. So another thing they added in Season 5 is fireworks and flares, which I'm pumped about.
Yeah, and the fireworks look really cool. It's one of those things that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of utility, but it's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, we were getting chased by another crew the other night, and during the chase, I would just periodically send up a firework, and they would send one back. It was a great little friendly exchange while we were trying to kill each other.
Right, it kind of adds in a little element of just funness to the game. that
Funness, yes.
funness. Yeah, that's a word, right?
I think I ate those when I was a kid.
Because sometimes when you're playing Sea of Thieves, although it's not an uber competitive game, it can sometimes be a little hostile. And I think throwing up a firework is just a, kind of a way to say, hey, we're still having fun here. Even we're not trying to be too competitive or get too serious about this.
Absolutely. I mean, we have been pretty lucky, I think, as far as encountering people who are running on salt power, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But they're out there.
Yeah, absolutely they are.
And it would be nice to be able to send up some dumb firework in their face and just, enhance their salt power even more. So let's talk about the flares a little bit.
Yeah, flares. Now, these actually do have some utility. A couple different uses for flares. One, you can light up an island in the nighttime. So sometimes islands get really dark and it can be hard to see what's going on. So shooting up a flare kind of puts like an artificial light up in the sky.
Mm-hmm. If you're a Dragon Ball Z fan like Randy and I, you remember Vegeta throwing up that fake moon, turning into the Great Ape when he took on Goku in the Saiyan Saga.
Yeah, this is very reminiscent of that.
I'm calling on you, Rare. Let's get some Great Apes and Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, that's a season 6 thing, Daniel.
Yeah.
That'll be coming up. I know it will.
Yeah, I'm counting on that one. So that's the white flare. There's also a red flare.
Yeah, and I guess you can use the red flare to kind of signal to your maybe crewmates to say, hey, there's some danger coming. Now, if you play on party chat like we typically do, I don't think this has a whole lot of use, but certainly there are people who play with, maybe just what is it called where you...
An open crew.
An open crew, right. If you play with an open crew, you may be playing with someone who doesn't have a mic, and sometimes typing a message, especially when you're on console, can be very clunky. So just saying, hey, there's danger coming by shooting up a red flare, I can see that being pretty neat.
Yeah, me too.
The next update they added was that you can sit.
Yeah, that's a big one. I don't know about you, but my pirate has gotten really tired.
Yeah, my pirate is exhausted constantly.
I mean, all he does is stand, run, and swim.
Yeah.
He's got to take a load off.
Occasionally, you just got to sit down. And although you could always sit through emotes, now we have a sit button. You can go up to the side of the deck and sit on the side of the deck. Mm-hmm. You can sit on barrels.
You can sit on the map table.
You can pretty much sit on anything.
You can sit in a lot of places. I mean, the other day you were doing something that seemed important, and I found out I can sit on the map table, and I called you back to the ship to come see it. I mean, it was that big of a deal.
You did. You called me over just to see you sitting on the map table.
Yeah, and you did. All right, so moving on from sit, the only logical place to go is sleep.
Yeah, you can sleep in the beds. And now all the ships have beds. It's almost like they planned this.
Almost. It is almost that way.
And sleeping has some utility. You can rebuild your health slowly.
Yeah, I mean, we tested it out when I was down maybe about a quarter health, and it seemed like it took around a minute to get that quarter health back. So if you've got a little time to spare, if you're on a long voyage, catch some Z's and save some fruit.
Yeah, and I think this is going to make the most sense for your larger crews, your brigantines and your galleon crews, because, hey, someone else is on the wheel, we're traveling to wherever we're going. If I need to rebuild some health, it makes a lot of sense to go down and sleep instead of wasting some fruit.
Absolutely. I mean, #save a nanner.
Yeah, this does rebuild your health slowly, but it kind of makes sense for it to be slow. You don't want to have this really overpowered bed laying there all the time, because if it was an instant regain of health, I could see it being abused.
Absolutely. I mean, I heard they were going to add the overpowered beds in the next paid tier of the Plunder Pass eventually, but for now we have underpowered beds. That's correct.
Well, let's move on to the next update.
All right, so the next thing we can do now is we can actually turn the speaking trumpet around and quote-unquote whisper.
Now, this is something that I'm still a little confused about in terms of how useful it is. It seems like one of those things where in certain situations, I think it will be really useful, but in the vast majority of the time, I don't think it'll be that useful.
Yeah, I mean, for people like us that play on party chat, I don't think it has a lot of use. Mm-hmm. But for people that play on game chat, I can definitely see some utility here, because we've been in situations before where I tried to say something to one of our crewmates when we were on game chat trying to interact with another crew, and they overheard, and I felt like a big idiot.
Right. And this would definitely save that. If you're on game chat and you wanted to say something to the people who are really close to you and not have everyone else hear you, turn the speaking trumpet around and you can whisper it.
Yeah, pretty cool. So up next, I know I was pumped about fireworks, Randy. This might be the big one. The rowboat, the boat that I have been obsessed with since day one, now will occasionally have, are you ready for this?
I'm ready for it.
A cannon.
this is pretty cool because being on a rowboat, you've kind of been defenseless up until now. Now you've got your cannon.
Maybe you have.
And if you are on a rowboat by yourself and you need to put some damage on someone, you can actually do it now.
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of uses in this, especially for some sneak attacks. If you're going around some rocks and things like that, playing a rowboat with a cannon, put a quick hole in them. Seems great.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it does have a downside in that when you shoot the cannon, it does have a little bit of a kickback to the rowboat, but that kind of just makes sense.
Yeah, it'd be weird if that wasn't there.
Yeah. So next, let's talk about the rats. There are now rats on the ship. This is just one of those ambiance things that they've added, but it does have some utility as well because when your boat starts to sink and take on water, the rats will scurry away and kind of give you another indication that, hey, you need to go take care of that damage.
Yeah, I mean, I've been guilty of being obsessed with the cannons from time to time and forgetting about damage control. So these rats scurrying up to the top is definitely going to be a heads up for me.
It's a very subtle, kind of cue, but it's just one more thing to let you know that, hey, you're in a little bit of trouble. You need to go fix this.
Yeah, I mean, one of two things is happening if the rats scurry to the top. Either your lower deck is filling up with water or someone has delivered a shipment of cheese to the top deck. One of the two, but...
That's great. Yeah, so I think that the main reason for the rats, I think, is just because it makes sense. You always think about rats on a ship. It's just kind of cliche. It needed to be there. But I'm glad they added some utility along with, just adding the rats in general.
Right. And moving on to something that has some utility, but maybe not necessarily for us, is the new dice roll mechanic.
Yeah, this is something we haven't played around with yet, but I'm sure for those people who want to role play and use dice, they're probably super excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of experience in the role-playing genre. I did play D&D once with some friends, and there's a lot of dice to be rolled. I don't really understand all of it, but for those people that want to turn Sea of Thieves into a role-playing experience, I'm glad that they have that opportunity to roll dice in-game now.
Right. It's not super, important to us, but still, I could see the appeal.
Definitely. So moving on to something that is important to us. Skeletons who use guns now drop ammo pouches when you kill them.
Yeah, I think that this is probably the most important update they've added because it's one of these things that happens, especially in the early game, I feel like a lot more than later on. When you're on smaller islands, they often don't have ammo crates laying around. And if you're fighting a bunch of skeletons, you often have to go back to your ship to get ammo, come back, and it really is tedious.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times you or Nick have told me, there's a whole gang of beefy skeletons over here that need shooting, and I don't have any ammo. I got to run back to the ship and get some.
I'm really surprised that it's taken them this long to implement this, but I'm really glad that they did.
Definitely. And I actually hope, and I mentioned this to you last night, but I'm hoping that in the future, maybe even players drop some ammo. That would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. If you take down a player, they drop whatever ammo they had left.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That would be cool.
So another thing that I think a lot of people are pumped about is the fact that now storage crates have been upgraded so that you can just walk up to a barrel and you can empty out its contents, or you can empty the storage crate into the barrel. This is really cool.
Absolutely. I mean, we have spent so much time at the beginning of our play sessions. Let's go with play sessions. Stalking our ship and running around whatever outpost we spawned in on and emptying all the barrels. Now we can just actually feel like there's a reason to spend that 17,000 gold on the storage crate and just run around the island doing that. It's way quicker.
Yeah, so much faster, and you get everything. This really speeds up that initial process that kind of gets the action started faster. And I think that was probably something that long-term players have gotten used to, but maybe new players can be turned off by how long it takes to actually get out and get going.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times there's been nights when maybe we're going to sign on at 8, and I'll just jump on at 7:45 and start looting the outpost. That way we can actually start playing around 8 and maximize our time.
And now we don't have to do that at all because this storage crate upgrade really makes things fast.
Yes.
And it makes storage, like you mentioned a second ago, this makes storage crates actually worth buying. Whereas before, it was the one thing that we typically didn't buy.
Yeah, we would buy every other type of crate. Speaking of crates you can buy at the beginning now, you also want to drop 20,000 gold on some of those fireworks. I'm just saying, worth it.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Randy, I've been noticing something. I've been sitting here doing this episode.
What's that?
Your mouth is moving.
When you talk, your mouth does typically move.
Well, I play a lot of Sea of Thieves, and that hasn't been happening, so I didn't really think that was commonplace.
Right. So you're talking about the new update where pirates' mouths move when you're talking in game.
Ah, yes, I am.
Yeah. This is a pretty cool thing that they added to game chat. It doesn't work in party chat, which is kind of disappointing, but it kind of makes sense. I understand. But if you're playing in game chat, when you talk, your pirate's mouth actually moves. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's not perfectly synced up with what they're saying or anything. It's not like it has some advanced algorithm in there actually listening to what you're saying. It kind of looks like you're watching overdubbed anime or something. But hey, that's cool.
Right. I mean, it's just one of those things. This does not change the game in any way, but it's just, hey, why not? It's kind of neat.
It is. It's very neat. So, Randy, I think we've covered all the big updates in Season 5.
For the most part, yeah, I think so.
Is there anything else you can think of that maybe you'd like to see him add in the future?
Right. Well, we've talked about this a couple times, and the more I think about it, the more I kind of think that it's a good idea. I think that there should be a smaller boat that is meant only for solo people who are playing by themselves.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I was watching some Fuzzy Bond yesterday, and he mentioned that early in the game, for some reason, something about solo slooping was easier, and that it seems like Rare really wants you to play with a larger crew, and it just stacks the deck against those solo sloopers. So yeah, I'm with you. Maybe a smaller boat suited for a one-man crew would kind of even the odds there.
Yeah, maybe something that's just one deck, that has all your stuff kind of like really close together so that you don't have to travel forever to get to everything. Maybe that would be overpowered. I'm not sure, but maybe if the boat was easier to sink.
Oh, it would be.
Yeah,
Surely.
Surely it would be if it's small. So, there need to be some pros and cons to doing it. But if you're playing by yourself right now, I don't think it's that great of an experience. Not that you can't have fun, because you absolutely can.
Yeah.
But I think that playing with others makes getting around a ship so much easier. And therefore the game is just better in general when you're playing with other people. But some people don't like to do that. They want to play by themselves. And I think having something that's a boat that you can only use if you're playing by yourself would be an update that I think a lot of people would appreciate.
Definitely. And I think that same courtesy could be extended to even the larger crews. I mean, I don't necessarily want there to be a 5-man ship or a 6-man ship. I kind of like the cap at 4. But maybe some ships that are for those crew sizes we already have that have some different configurations of cannons or the layout or the way the ship maneuvers. Just variety in general, I think would be cool.
Right. Kind of related to that, something we've talked about in the past that I think would be really cool is if they implemented a mode where you could actually customize your ship's layout and kind of maybe optimize it for, the way that your crew likes to, operate.
Yeah, I mean, Rare, I've already named this for you. This is called Shipwright mode. And I think that's coming in Season 8. I'm just going to go ahead and make that prediction.
I could see this would be great if it was a feature that was free to everybody, but I could see it even being behind a paywall. Those people who are invested enough to want to try to create a ship that's optimized for them, they probably wouldn't mind spending a few bucks on it. I don't think I would. I think I might be interested in something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that would be better to be a one-time fee. Say you go pay your $5 and you design your ship, or if maybe it's locked behind the plunder pass and you can just access that feature.
Right, that might be a good thing. Something that you can pay for the pass and then you have access to being able to customize your ship. I think that'd be really fun. And I don't think that this would necessarily set anyone at an extreme advantage, but it might just make the game more convenient for some people.
Definitely. And Randy, something that they've already implemented that I'm excited about, we already did the math on this. Do you realize that by the end of Season 5, we will have pets?
Yes. So, kind of just as a principle, we have not paid any real world money to play this game. We've only used the currency that the game has given us. It's it's not a free to play game. You have to buy the game, but it's on Game Pass, so it's essentially free to us. So we have not wanted to put any money in this game, and I don't feel like we've needed to enjoy the game. But one thing that has tempted us is pets. It essentially costs $5 to buy a pet if you want to use real world cash. But we have not done that. We've been waiting to save up our ancient coins so that we can buy a pet. And at the end of the season, we're going to have enough.
Yeah, so without the Plunder Pass, you earn 250 ancient coins per season if you get all 100 levels of Renown.
Which we did last season, no problem.
Yeah, and we're already well on our way in Season 5 because I checked last night. So yeah, about 3/4 of the way through this season, I'm going to have me a monkey.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to have a cat.
And that's pretty cool. And talking about how we haven't put any real money into this, we haven't bought the Plunder Pass, that's something maybe we didn't touch on at the beginning. One of the greatest things about Sea of Thieves to me is that you don't have to play the game for a long time or spend a lot of money in order to have the same weapons and abilities that everyone else has. Everyone's on an even playing field from day one.
Right. This is really cool. And I think that it kind of encouraged me to feel like, hey, I'm not awful at this game. because there are so many of these multiplayer online games where you come in and it's just overwhelming how bad you are at first. And maybe you don't have the time or don't want to put in the time to get good at the game. And this is not one of those games where you come in and feel like you're terrible at the game. Because one, if you don't want to, be competitive, you don't have to. You can play the game and kind of focus on quests. You don't even really have to try to take down other ships or interact with other players if you don't want.
That's right. I mean, I really don't feel like you owe anybody a fight. And if you want to run, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you want to be competitive and you do want to try to take someone down and have that PvP stuff going on, you can. And, you know that the people who've been playing forever, they have the exact same weapons you do. They deal the same damage. It's not pay to win, and so many of these games are pay to win that it's really refreshing to be able to play a big online multiplayer game that isn't.
Well, I tell you, Randy, it's just a dang shame that neither one of us likes Sea of Thieves.
I know. Well, it really is one of those games that I didn't expect to like it. Honestly, I thought I'll try. I had some friends tell me, hey, you got to try this game. I thought I might give it a go, but I'll probably, get on it and then maybe play it for a little while and then move on to something else. But I'll tell you right now, I have no intentions to leave or stop playing Sea of Thieves.
No, I mean, if you quit playing Sea of Thieves, I'm just going to find somebody else to play with.
Yeah, it's that much fun. And I think that if you haven't given it a shot, now is the time to do it. Season 5 is the perfect time to pick up the game and give it a go.
Absolutely. So guys, if you've stuck around this long in the episode, hopefully you're a little invested in the conversation. Let us know down in the comments, what are you excited to see in Sea of Thieves Season 5? What do you hope to see in the future, and why do you enjoy the game so much?
Yeah, guys, we want to hear from you. Well, until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.